Many know Isaiah for his heavenly visions, Jeremiah for his soul-piercing laments, or Ezekiel for his apocalyptic imagery. But there is a prophet less remembered, a man with no noble lineage, no spectacular miracles, no epic deeds to fill the pages of history. His name was Malachi, and he was the last to raise his voice before a silence that would last 4 centuries. The last to deliver the divine message before prophecy faded like an echo in the desert. His words, ignored by many in his time, now resound with an urgency that seems to speak directly to our world. Who was Malachi really? Why does his message, spoken more than 2 millennia ago, feel like a troubling reflection of our present? Let us discover his story. In ancient days, after the people of Israel returned from exile in Babylon, the land of Judah seemed to come alive again. They had rebuilt the temple in Jerusalem, and the walls once again protected the holy city. But in the people's hearts, faith had grown cold like an abandoned fire. Malachi was neither a warrior nor a king. He was a simple prophet with a voice that spoke straightforward truths. His name meant, "My messenger," and that is exactly what God made him, a messenger the people did not want to hear. One clear morning, Malachi walked toward the temple, feeling the weight of a divine burden. The night before, in the stillness of his humble home, God had spoken to him, not with thunder or visions of angels, but with clear words that filled his mind like fresh water in a desert.
Go and tell my people what I command you,
said the Lord. Malachi remembered the stories of past prophets. Moses before Pharaoh, Elijah on Mount Carmel. But his mission was different. He did not bring plagues or fire from heaven. He brought a mirror for the people to see their own unfaithfulness. When he reached the temple courtyard, he saw the priests preparing the altars. The smoke of sacrifices rose to the sky, but something was wrong. The people were bringing poor offerings, lame, blind, or sick animals, things no one would want for themselves. Malachi stood among them and began to speak as if God himself opened his lips.
I have loved you,
declared the Lord through him. The people of Israel were like a beloved child, chosen since the days of Abraham. God had delivered them from Egypt, guided them through the wilderness, and now had brought them back from Babylon.
Are you not my inheritance? I have kept you as the apple of my eye, protecting you from powerful nations.
But the people murmured in doubt.
How have you loved us, Lord? Our lives are hard droughts, enemies at the borders. Where is the proof of your favor?
To answer, God pointed to Edom, the nation descended from Esau, Jacob's brother.
I have loved Jacob, but Esau I have hated,
said the Lord. Edom had been proud, attacking Israel in its weakest moments. Therefore, God turned its mountains into desolation and its valleys into dens of jackals.
Though Edom says, "We will rebuild our ruins," I, the Lord of hosts, declare that they will remain a wasteland forever. No one will restore them. Their land will stand as a testimony of my justice.
Malachi lifted his hands, imagining the rocky hills of Edom, now empty and cursed.
See the difference. Israel will be called the people of the Lord forever. You will inhabit the promised land, while Edom vanishes like mist in the sun.
Some in the crowd nodded, remembering the ancient promises. But many shrugged. They had heard prophets before, and life went on the same meager harvests, heavy taxes from the Persian king.
Proof? We want blessings now.
They muttered. The prophet felt sorrow, but he continued. God had more to say about the priests, the guardians of the temple. They, descendants of Aaron, were meant to be examples of purity. Instead, they despised the name of God.
Why do you profane my name?
God asked. The priests replied in surprise.
How have we profaned it? We offer sacrifices every day. We teach the law in the assemblies.
But the Lord revealed the truth.
You bring defiled bread to my altar and offer impure sacrifices. You say, the Lord's table is contemptible. You offer defective animals, lame, or sick things you wouldn't even give to your governor.
Imagine the scene. A priest accepting a lame lamb while rejecting a healthy one because no extra payment was offered.
Try offering that to your earthly king. Would he be pleased? Would he not punish you? I am a great king, and my name is feared among the nations. From the rising of the sun to its setting, my name is great among the Gentiles. They offer pure incense in my honor, even though they do not know me as you do.
But the people of Israel, on the other hand, carelessly shut the temple doors and light useless fires on the altar.
It's tiresome to serve you.
Some priests whispered in secret. God warned.
Cursed is the deceiver who has a male without defect in his flock, but offers to the Lord what is blemished.
Malachi saw how this pierced God's heart. The priests were causing many to stumble, twisting the law for profit.
You have corrupted the covenant of Levi,
said the Lord. In ancient days, Levi had been faithful, and God had given him a covenant of life and peace. The priests were meant to fear God, teach the truth, and turn people away from evil. But now they were partial, accepting bribes and allowing sin to grow. The crowd around Malachi grew some curious, others angry. An elder priest confronted him.
Silence, prophet. Who are you to judge us?
But Malachi did not remain silent. God had a message about the people's unfaithfulness.
Judah has been unfaithful. They have profaned the sanctuary of the Lord by marrying daughters of foreign gods.
Many Israelite men were abandoning their Jewish wives, faithful since their youth, to join themselves to idol-worshipping women from neighboring nations. These marriages brought idols into their homes and corrupted the godly offspring God desired. Malachi imagined the tears of those abandoned wives, crying before the altar.
The Lord is a witness between you and the wife of your youth, whom you have betrayed. She was your companion, your wife by covenant. Did not God make you one? Because he was seeking godly offspring. Guard your spirit, and do not be unfaithful.
God hated divorce, covering the man with violence like a stained cloak.
Do not cover my altar with false tears.
Do not cover my altar with false tears.
Because their actions were unjust, they mistreated their wives and allowed idolatry to thrive. At sunset, Malachi sat exhausted on the temple steps. He had proclaimed God's love for Israel and his judgment against Edom. He had exposed the priests' contempt for pure offerings and their corruption of the covenant. He had warned against mixed marriages and unfaithful divorce. But the rejection was palpable. Ordinary people continued their routines, bringing mediocre offerings and living divided lives. That night, in his home, Malachi wrote the words on a scroll, praying for open ears. He remembered how, in the past, God had sent prophets like Hosea, who lived his message in the flesh. But this time, the message was direct, a call to return to pure love. Only a few listened: a faithful farmer, a devout widow, a doubtful young Levite. They formed a small group, studying the law and praying for change. Days later, Malachi traveled to nearby villages, repeating the message. In the dry fields, he spoke to farmers.
Do not rob God in tithes and offerings.
Though the sacred book did not yet detail everything, he knew more would come. The people murmured.
It's useless to serve God. The wicked prosper, while the righteous suffer.
God sees and remembers.
And so, in this first part of his prophecy, Malachi planted seeds of truth in hardened soil. The love of God shone clearly, but the people preferred the shadow of their own will. Yet deep within, a faithful remnant began to awaken, preparing for what was to come, the promise of purification and justice. The sun blazed over Judah, and Malachi kept delivering God's message to a people barely listening. Weeks had passed since he began preaching in the temple. Though some hearts were moved, many remained blind to the truth. His words echoed through the streets of Jerusalem, in the marketplaces and dusty villages, but rejection grew like thorns. The priests looked at him with contempt, and the common people kept bringing poor offerings to the altar. Still, Malachi did not give up. God had shown him more. A day of purification was near, a day that would burn like fire and cleanse like soap. This was the second part of his story, inspired by the sacred words of Scripture. One evening, as the sky turned orange, Malachi stood on a hill near the temple, where the breeze carried the scent of olive trees and sacrificial smoke. Below, the Levites sang psalms, but their voices sounded hollow, like cracked bells.
Listen, my people. The Lord whom you seek will come to his temple. But who can endure the day of his coming? Who will stand when he appears?
The crowd grew still, some curious, others mocking. What was this man talking about? Wasn't the temple already standing, filled with daily sacrifices? Malachi continued, his eyes shining as if he could see the future.
He will be like a refiner's fire, like a launderer's soap. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of the sons of Levi, purifying them like silver and gold.
God had seen the corruption of the priests, how they twisted the law and accepted bribes, but it would not always be this way. The Lord would cleanse them, removing the dross from their service. Malachi declared,
Then the offerings of Judah and Jerusalem will be pleasing to the Lord, as in the days of old, when hearts were pure and the altars burned with devotion.
Imagine the scene. A young Levite, Nathan, who had been listening to Malachi from the very beginning, felt a shiver run down his spine. He knew the priests, his elders, had lost their way. He remembered how his uncle, an old priest, would accept sick lambs in exchange for favors. Nathan approached the prophet afterward, his voice trembling.
How will God cleanse the temple, Malachi? What must we do?
The prophet placed a hand on his shoulder.
Fear the Lord, Nathan. Keep his covenant. Teach the truth without partiality, as Levi did in ancient days. The day of purification will come, but those who honor God will be ready.
But the message was not only for the priests. God spoke through Malachi to the people themselves.
You have wearied the Lord with your words.
How have we wearied him?
By saying, it is useless to serve God. What have we gained by keeping his commands or humbling ourselves before him? The arrogant prosper, the wicked escape judgment.
Malachi knew the people looked around and saw injustice. The rich cheated the poor, foreigners oppressed them, and some Israelites grew wealthy by imitating pagan nations.
Where is the justice of God?
They asked. The prophet pointed to the heavens, where the first stars were beginning to shine.
The Lord does not forget. Those who fear him will be remembered. On the day when I act, they will be my treasured possession. I will spare them like a father spares his obedient son.
God promised to distinguish between the righteous and the wicked, between those who serve him and those who do not. Malachi imagined an open book in heaven, a book of remembrance where the names of the faithful were written. Men like Eli, the farmer who now brought his best lamb to the temple. Women like Miriam, the widow who prayed nightly for her children. They were the remnant who feared the Lord and spoke of him with reverence. But the people continued to stray. He saw wealthy men withholding wages from their workers, leaving widows and orphans helpless.
You have perverted the way of the Lord. Return to me, and I will return to you.
But the people replied with arrogance,
How shall we return? Are we not already in your land, offering sacrifices?
Malachi lifted his voice.
Do not rob God. You have withheld the tithes and offerings. That is why the curse has fallen on your fields. Your vines wither, your figs do not ripen, because you have kept for yourselves what belongs to the Lord.
In a nearby village, Malachi gathered a group of farmers and spoke to them of a promise.
Bring the full tithe into the storehouse, and see if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing until it overflows. I will rebuke the devourer, the locust that destroys your crops. Your fields will flourish, and all nations will call you blessed.
Some, like Eli, nodded with hope. The next day, he brought to the temple not only a lamb, but also the first fruits of his harvest. But others laughed.
Empty promises. The temple already has enough, and we barely eat.
Malachi felt the weight of their unbelief, but he did not stop. God had shown him that the problem was not just money or sacrifices, it was the heart of the people. In their homes, unfaithfulness was still tearing families apart. Men were abandoning their Jewish wives for foreign women who brought idols into their homes.
The Lord hates divorce.
Malachi repeated, recalling his earlier message.
Do not cover his altar with fake tears. Be faithful to the covenant of your youth.
A young woman in the crowd, her face marked by pain, listened silently. Malachi's words gave her comfort, but they also stung, for they revealed how far the people had drifted from God. One night, under a sky full of stars, Malachi dreamed again. He saw a messenger running down a dusty road, preparing the way for someone greater.
Behold, I send my messenger, and he will prepare the way before me.
The prophet awoke with his heart pounding. He knew this messenger was not himself, but someone who would come later before the great day of the Lord. But it was not yet time to speak of that. First, the people had to hear the truth about their sin and the promise of purification. Days later, in the temple, Malachi faced the priests once again.
Return to the truth. Teach the law as Levi did, with fear and reverence. Do not twist justice for profit.
Malachi's message spread slowly. In the villages, small groups of believers gathered to pray and share what they had. Eli and Miriam led one of these groups, reading the words of the ancient prophets.
If the Lord is coming to purify, I want to be ready.
Malachi's message spread slowly. In the villages, small groups of believers gathered to pray and share what they had. Eli and Miriam led one of these groups, reading the words of the ancient prophets and remembering God's promises, but most remained blind. The rich grew richer, the priests continued their corrupt routines, and unfaithful men justified their actions.
God doesn't see. If he did, why do the wicked prosper?
Malachi knew the day of purification would be both a day of justice and of mercy. God would cleanse his people, but also save those who feared him. As the sun set over Jerusalem, the prophet wrote on his scroll,
The Lord of hosts says, Those who fear me will be mine on the day when I act. I will keep them as my treasured possession, and righteousness will shine like the sun.
Night fell, and with it came the certainty that the message had to go on, even if the people resisted. The dust of Jerusalem's streets rose with every step Malachi took as he continued to deliver God's message to a hardened people. Months had passed since he first began to prophesy, and though some, like Eli the farmer, Miriam the widow, and Nathan the young Levite, listened with open hearts, most remained deaf. The priests persisted with altars stained by impure offerings, and the people lived caught between doubt and disobedience. But God had not finished speaking. Through Malachi, he announced a great and terrible day, a day that would change everything. This is the third part of his story, rooted in the sacred words of Scripture, told as a narrative that still rings true. God would not only purify the priests, he would restore pure worship, like in the days of David, when psalms filled the air and the altars burned with sincere offerings. Nathan, the young Levite, now stronger in his faith, listened from the edge of the crowd. He had begun to reject defective offerings despite his superiors' complaints.
Listen, people of Judah. The Lord of hosts says, I send my messenger, and he will prepare the way before me.
Malachi saw him and nodded, as if he knew this young man would be part of the remnant God would preserve. But the message wasn't only for the Levites. God spoke to the entire people.
The Lord whom you seek will suddenly come to his temple. But who can endure the day of his coming? Who will stand when he appears?
A tense silence fell. The priests, busy with their knives and altars, stared at the prophet with suspicion. Common people whispered, "Another judgment?" But Malachi continued, his voice ringing clear like a bell.
He will be like a refiner's fire, purifying the sons of Levi. Like a launderer's soap, he will cleanse their hearts until they offer sacrifices in righteousness.
God would not only purify the priests, he would restore pure worship, like in the days of David, when psalms filled the air and the altars burned with sincere offerings. Nathan, the young Levite, now stronger in his faith, listened from the edge of the crowd. He had begun to reject defective offerings despite his superiors' complaints.
If the Lord comes, let him find me faithful.
Malachi saw him and nodded, as if he knew this young man would be part of the remnant God would preserve. But the message wasn't only for the Levites. God spoke to the entire people.
I will draw near to you for judgment. I will be a swift witness against sorcerers, adulterers, liars, those who oppress hired workers, widows, and orphans, and those who deny justice to the foreigner.
Malachi pointed to the merchants in the nearby market who used false weights to cheat the poor. He pointed to the men abandoning their wives for idolatrous women, breaking the sacred covenant. He remembered distant villages where widows begged for bread while the rich hoarded grain.
The Lord sees all this. He has not changed since the days of Moses. He hates injustice. Those who fear his name will be saved, but the wicked will face his wrath.
In a village to the south, Malachi gathered a small group of faithful ones. Eli was there, now bringing his full tithe to the temple, trusting in the promise of blessing. Miriam was there, teaching her children to fear the Lord. And Nathan was there, dreaming of a renewed temple. The prophet spoke to them of a special book.
The Lord writes a book of remembrance. In it are the names of those who fear him, those who speak of him with love. On the day when I act, they will be my treasure. I will spare them as a father spares his son who serves him.
The listeners nodded, feeling hope stir within them. But outside that circle, the people kept murmuring, "It's useless to serve God. The wicked prosper, and we suffer." One night, under a starry sky, Malachi had a vision. He saw a brilliant sun, not an ordinary sun, but a sun of righteousness, rising with healing in its wings. The righteous would leap for joy like calves released from the stall, while the wicked would be like stubble burned in the fire. "The day is coming," said God. "Burning like a furnace, all the arrogant and evildoers will be consumed. Not a root or branch will be left to them." Malachi awoke trembling, knowing this day would be terrible for the disobedient, but glorious for the faithful. At dawn, he returned to the temple and proclaimed the vision.
Remember the law of Moses. God gave statutes and judgments at Horeb for all Israel. Keep them, for the great day of the Lord is near.
The crowd listened, some in fear, others with scorn. One man shouted,
What about the wicked who prosper now? Where is this judgment?
The Lord distinguishes between the righteous and the wicked. Those who serve him will see his justice. Do not lose heart, for he does not forget.
The final message of Malachi was both a promise and a warning.
Behold, I will send you the prophet Elijah before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. He will turn the hearts of the fathers to their children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and strike the land with a curse.
These words were an echo of hope. Elijah, or someone like him, would come to restore families, to mend what was broken. Malachi imagined fathers teaching the law to their children and children honoring their fathers, just as in the days of the patriarchs. But he also knew that if the people did not listen, the land would face a severe judgment. In the days that followed, Malachi traveled throughout Judah, repeating this message.
Return to God with all your heart. The Lord is your defender. Prepare the way, for the messenger is coming.
Some, like Nathan, joined the faithful remnant, studying the law and praying for purification.
There are always prophets talking about judgment. Where is that day?
One evening, as the sun set over the hills, Malachi sat with his small group of followers. He spoke to them about the Son of Righteousness, about the healing that would come, about the names written in God's book.
Do not be afraid. Even if the world mocks you, God sees you. Your prayers rise like pure incense.
Miriam wept with gratitude, remembering how God had sustained her. Eli promised to keep bringing his tithes, trusting in the blessing. Nathan vowed to teach the truth, even if the other priests rejected him. When Malachi's ministry came to an end, the people remained divided. The rich continued their oppression. The priests kept offering empty sacrifices, and many hearts remained cold. But the seeds he had planted began to sprout in the hearts of the remnant. They kept Malachi's words, wrote them on scrolls, and taught them to their children. They knew the promised messenger would come, that the Son of Righteousness would rise, and that the great day of the Lord would bring justice and healing. And so Malachi, the last prophet of his time, left his message as a light in the darkness. The people did not fully listen, but God did not forget. His words, written in the sacred book, would echo centuries later, when another messenger, like Elijah, would prepare the way for the Savior. The Son of Righteousness would come, and those who feared the Lord would leap for joy, while the stubble burned in the fire of truth. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the story of Malachi, the prophet who spoke with courage when few were willing to listen. Your time and attention inspire us to continue sharing these stories that connect us to the faith and eternal truth of God's Word. Now, we invite you to reflect. What does it mean to be faithful in your own life? Like Malachi, we all face moments when we must choose between following God with a pure heart or giving in to the comfort of the world. Carry this message with you. Honor God with the best of your life, trust in His promises, and be a light to those around you. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder of God's love and justice. Join our community to keep exploring the truths of the Bible. And above all, search your heart for how you can live faithfully, bringing your tithes, your time, talents, and love into God's service. May God bless you greatly. Amen.